Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I've Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio.
Happy Valentine's Day, Anney.
Happy Valentine's Day, Samantha. We used to spend Valentine's Day together.
We did. I've gotten kind of slowly rolling back on it, I think. I will say last night we actually had Galentine's dinner, and I told them this with my partner and his dad. At a fairly fancy place here. So I was like, look at me, still doing Galentine's, just without the gals.
You got to celebrate how you can.
However you can. I'm going to take it. So yes, it is Valentine's Day as we record and as it actually is published. And yes, there's love in the air, or maybe we're just going to have a frank conversation about love, or maybe the symbol of love. Am I right? I don't know. So,
can be.
What are we talking about? Well, we thought we would come back and revisit a topic that the show has already kind of talked about previously, and that's weddings.
Yep.
Wedding times, wedding season conversations. People are getting engaged. People have gotten engaged recently. New Year's, Christmas. All those times are really big times.
Oof.
Did you know this? Yeah.
No, I didn't know that, but that sounds stressful to me.
And Valentine's Day is also a big day. Now, we're not going to actually talk about the traditions or even the sexist meanings or reasons behind certain traditions or ceremonies. Because like I said, I know there was a huge conversation. I remember when Kristen got married, she was having a lot of inner conversations and inner turmoil about the traditions and all of this. And I remember even seeing comments of people being really kind of upset with her for going down the aisle.
Yes, Kristen being the founder and past host of the show. Yeah, I have to say, every time we talk about marriage, it sparks a conversation.
A lot of conversation. And you know what? That's okay. That's wonderful. And as we have regressed in the U.S., we're probably going to talk more about it. I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot more about it, but we're not necessarily talking about that specifically. We're actually going to talk about the costs and kind of the trends and breakdowns of weddings and what's happening within the industry. I will say this. The majority of this conversation is based on heteronormative couples. I feel like I need to apologize up at the top because I didn't go beyond that. But with that content, it's going to be a full episode already. We do want to come back and revisit it about what marriage looks like for the queer community, for the marginalized community, so much more. Because when we talk about the rollbacks that have happened in the U.S., it's going to greatly affect all of us. And I say this as a person of color. So we're not necessarily talking about all of that. Again, like I said, a lot to do for one episode.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about it. And in fact, I'm actually not going to even talk about what happened during COVID. I'll briefly mention it, but the dip in marriages and the dip in the industry and the amount of profits was huge, billions of dollars huge, but has quickly grown, come back. It hasn't reached the pinnacle of what it was, but all of that. So we're not even talking about that. We are trying to keep on most of the information I've got, I think, is from 2022 to 2024. Obviously, it's 2025. We haven't quite gotten all of that information. They do tell us and give us predictions about the 2025 trends. And we are going to talk about that because that's kind of an interesting, fun conversation. I feel very old, by the way, in this topic because being in weddings when I was literally 7, with the minute I came into the U.S., I was in a wedding, to having and hosting and being in so many weddings in college, even high school, to now, the way that things have changed is kind of funny, and I feel very aged.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But again, with all of that, just keep all of these things in mind. Also, shout out to The Knot. We did get a chunk of information from them with different authors on it, so we're going to try to credit every author in here and other statistics. But The Knot ended up being let me help you here with some advice.
It's kind of their thing.
It is their thing. Zola.com comes in a little bit as well, and brides.com. So unsurprising, but the Knot was at the top. Not a sponsor, y'all. Not a sponsor, but
not currently.
Good information right now. So let's start at the beginning with a proposal. There's a certain competition to having that right or great proposal. Am I right? Like there's this level of like, how are you doing it or how I did it? And people kind of compare. Have you ever thought of an ideal proposal, Anney? Has that ever like been a fantasy thing for you?
No. I actually have been proposed to before, though.
What?
Yeah.
What is
It's
your
a
life,
long
Anney?
story.
What is your life?
It's a long story. For me, it felt like it came out of left field. And I will say this, one time, my thing about the proposal is if I am someone who I would want you to talk to me about it beforehand. Do not surprise me out of anywhere. Do not put me in a lot of pressure in front of a lot of people. I do not like that. So I was saying this to a kind of a group of mixed men and women. And it was funny how many men were like, but the surprise part is so good. And how many women were like, no,
No.
don't do that. At least talk to me about it before.
Right.
Don't just bring it on me. So I have not thought about that. I have thought when I was a kid, I did think about like the perfect wedding and dress.
Right.
But never the proposal.
Never
no.
the proposal. Okay, so you didn't start from there. And I will say, we don't talk about it here, but statistically, most people agree with you. I think about 45% of couples said they had talked about it 6 to 12 months in advance. About what this looked like, what marriage, like they don't come into it lightly, and even higher percentage about even marriage in general. And I feel like that should be. If that's not a conversation you're having at all and you propose, there's a big miscommunication happening.
Yes.
You need to have secondary talk.
It's interesting too, because it's funny how much of the like, and again, I'm speaking from fan fiction, but I know it's in rom-coms too, how much it's usually a surprise.
Yeah.
Like they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So I guess there's something kind of romantic about, I don't know. Sometimes they both have their rings and they were both thinking about.
Right.
Like, well, I don't know, but
I feel like the older traditions is probably a little bit more misogynistic with the man owning and like, oh, I know the perfect time. You can't tell me,
right.
like, and you don't get a choice in this either. But trying to romanticize it and being like, oh, we love surprises, and they don't really understand the level, especially when it comes to rings. I will say, typically, if you are not the one to pick out the ring with him, again, very heteronormative. Heterosexual couples, usually a friend goes with them, like her friend. Like I've seen that a lot, which sometimes comes out as miscommunication. Like, oh no, are they cheating?
I've seen
that's been that a big trope. But we're not talking about tropes today. Hey, quit talking about tropes.
Sorry. Did you think about the proposal?
So for me, I don't think so. I had a whole lead up about finding the perfect guy for me. And they had these certain requirements that they had to meet. And it was very like specific, weird requirements. And I actually told my partner, and he was like, yeah, I would have never gotten those.
wouldn't have passed that.
Because there's so like one of them was like, he will give me a single white rose. He has never given me a single white rose. Why white? I don't know. I don't even like roses. But it was very specific details.
Yeah. But
the proposal part, no. I remember it being like, every time I see a public proposal, the way my heart stops. That thought makes me want to vomit.
Yeah. I'm nervous.
Right.
when I see it.
And like, because again, this has been one of those conversations later on where like that becomes a tactic and manipulation in trying to get you to say yes and not being able to say no. And then when they do, everybody's embarrassed. Everybody's embarrassed. But all of that, yes. So what are some trends when it comes to popping the question? I love that phrase. Well, there's still the classic of doing it with personalization and unique experiences, such as using an heirloom jewelry, which is beautiful, going back to the place you first met or started dating, sentimental places. But if you wanted to class it up, there are some suggestions from effortlessevents.com. Again, none of these sites or any of these, because a lot of them are venues or like how-tos or all that. They're not our sponsors currently. Nobody's getting married here. They just give us a lot of advice, okay? So you can customize proposal settings, personalize proposal locations like scenic beach backdrops, romantic rooftop setups, and private luxury yachts are on the rise. Anney.
Whoa.
Just in case. If he doesn't get me a yacht, I don't want it. I'm just kidding.
What if you get seasick?
I do. Oh, no. I don't need you to think about all of the rational reasons behind things. I just need you to know the effort, right? No. So they also say experience-focused proposals, blending travel with adventure. Think hot air balloon rides or grand travel surprises as backdrops for those marriage proposals.
I'm just seeing everything go wrong.
Everything go wrong. I would have fallen out. I would have fallen out the air balloon, like hot air balloon, and that's the end.
I did have a friend. I don't think it ever actually happened, but they were supposed to renew their vows on a hot air balloon. Well, actually, this story is better than I'm making it sound. I have a friend whose grandmother was supposed to renew her vows on a hot air balloon.
That's intense. I hope they like the adrenaline.
I think so. It's Dylan's grandmother, by the way. Our friend of the show and past producer, Dylan. Okay, but those aren't their only ideas. What about using technology to your advantage? They suggest augmented reality, AR proposals. Couples are leveraging AR to create personalized virtual experiences where holographic images deliver their proposal message. Proposal video production. Our experience has shown that drone videography and cinematic proposal reels are becoming the norm for capturing moments in high definition.
Oh, the drones. I could see that. What's so funny is I just watched a K-drama in which they use a drone light show to propose. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of work, a lot of technology.
That's a lot of money going in from very jump.
Yes.
Of course, with these ideas, there could be something a bit different people could try. Recently, I've seen an uptick in women proposing to men in, again, the heterosexual relationships, or what Loverly.com calls proposing back. Here's a quote. Not sure you are comfortable proposing to a guy? Consider the idea of proposing back, i.e., planning your own special date night and presenting him with a ring in the weeks after he proposes to you. I don't hate that idea. I don't hate it. Not only is it a celebration, but you're kind of giving it back.
I like that. Loverly also gives another new trendy idea. Don't use rings to propose, use a puppy. Oof. Here's another quote from that article. While some women love jewelry and are super excited about the idea of a shiny new ring as an engagement gift, there are plenty of women who aren't crazy about it. But there's no rule that says a ring has to accompany a proposal. We'd like to see more couples embracing non-traditional engagement gifts that feel right to them, whether it's a down payment on a condo, a fabulous trip, or a cool piece of art. The only real requirement is that it's meaningful to the couple. The world is ready for creative engagement gifts. Seriously, who could say no to an engagement puppy?
Right. So I guess in addition to the ring, you could buy these things. I've seen people talk about engagement gifts as well. So like, this is for us, blah, blah, blah. On top of the ring?
Yeah. I mean, I personally know a lot of people who legitimately really don't like the diamond industry.
Right.
And would be very angry to receive a ring.
Right.
Or unless it was something very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes sense to me. I mean, I think it's just kind of a strange thing because the ring is supposed to represent to other people that you're married in some ways.
I know like in places like South Korea, they don't do that. They have recently, they jumped on board with it, but typically they don't. I find it interesting because a lot of my friends, because of that specific reason, didn't use diamonds. They would use sapphire or their birthstone or their favorite stones, which isn't too far off from using diamonds, but like they would use other types of rings in order to like represent it instead of an actual diamond. Do you have an ideal engagement item if you were to be proposed to?
A very rare Star Wars something.
Surprise.
Yeah. Surprise. Or travel. I think I would like travel.
Yeah, travel would be my probably go-to. Yeah, and what is the cost of a proposal? Like I said, this seems really costly. Obviously, this will have a lot to do with your plans. Beach proposal, not so costly unless you're, have to travel across country or out of country to do so. Unless you started adding like private locations, surprise photographers, and maybe even an engagement proposal celebration with friends after the fact, during the fact, who knows. That will push the tab up pretty quickly. And what if you do go traditional and buy a ring instead of that puppy? Well, first, how do you choose that perfect ring, that perfect one? Here's some interesting information. And information from the not.com. A chunk of people use Pinterest or some type of social media for help. And yes, Pinterest is still one of the best sites to use. So here's a quote. While Pinterest was the most popular destination among social media platforms, 62% got ideas from Instagram. Of course, we know you're wondering about the Gen Z Boost app. TikTok, about 34% use the short-form video platform, an increase of 5% since 2023. It says it's never too early to get your FYP on #wedding talk.
Okay. And interestingly, the cost of rings are actually down. According to their research, the Knot states, quote, price is officially the most important factor to proposers when looking for engagement rings. In this economy, there's a reason why. Historically, and for context, respondents ranked the cut/shape as the most important feature over price. They wanted to get their partner's dream rock, after all. However, in 2024, proposers ranked price as the most important quality, followed by cut/shape as the second, and quality as the third.
And they continue, they want to maximize the value of their purchase. With inflation concerns affecting consumers across the country, the shift doesn't come as a complete surprise. Further fueling this new engagement trend is the fact that the average cost of an engagement ring has been steadily decreasing over the years. Our survey found that shoppers now spend an average of $5,200 on their proposal piece. That number was $5,500 in 2023 and $5,800 in 2022. Back in 2021, it was a whopping $6,000. What's fascinating, though, is that the average carat size has increased. Our 2024 survey indicates that the average carat size of an engagement ring is 1.7 carats, up from 1.6 in 2023. However, a majority of engagement rings also feature side stones or additional gems within the setting, meaning rings continue to increase in overall size. Now, nearly 40% of engagement rings feature stones that are over 2 carats. This represents a 22% spike since 2015.
And the popularity of lab-grown diamonds has increased as well. Here's another quote from the Knot.com. Our data reveals that over half, 52% of all engagement rings feature a lab-grown center stone, which is up 6% from last year. Looking further back, lab-grown diamonds made up just 12% of engagement rings in 2019, showing just how quickly this trend has skyrocketed. Meanwhile, 22% of respondents in 2024 reported that their ring has a mined diamond, down 3% from the previous year.
That's a pretty big significance. And so what are some of these styles for today? Here's some more numbers for you again from the Knot.com. Round-shaped diamonds have been the most popular engagement ring style in the U.S., but that may be replaced by a new shape very soon. 28% of engagement rings feature a round center stone, but the second most popular shape is the oval, which accounts for 25% of all designs. That's up a staggering 23% since 2015, when it was in just 2% of engagement rings. You peoples have a lot of choices when it comes to this ring. There's a lot of shapes, the oval, the tear, so many. I really get confused because I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? The diamond, the princess cut. I don't know what the princess cut is. Do you know what that is?
No, but I have to tell you this. Not a sponsor. Hidden Valley Ranch made a lab-grown diamond with ranch, I guess. And it says on the band, I Heart HVR, Hidden Valley Ranch. And somebody won, or I don't know, they auctioned it off to use in their wedding. But I sent this story to Ben Bolin, and he was like, how could you do this to me? Because he doesn't like ranch and he doesn't like diamonds. And he was like
everything he hated. Yeah. You were like, hey, just in case one day Hidden Valley can help you. So you might want to be Team Ranch. I also don't like ranch. So I'm like, that's interesting. People are doing things, I'll tell you what.
That's true.
People are doing things, if nothing else. Mm-hmm. So now we've had the ideal proposal. You've got the cut of the ring or non-ring. You got the puppy. Whatever you want. Let's talk about the trends we are seeing in the engagement phase.
Okay.
Oh, I meant to tell you, damn it. At the very beginning of the show, I was going to be like, hey, Anney, will you talk about wedding trends with me?
Well, I will.
Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and do it in the middle of it because it's even better. Yeah, so let's talk about it. We are now engaged. We've given each other whatever objects, your Star Wars, And
Okay.
my puppy,
Okay.
we're in there. So outside of the fun engagement parties that we may be having, we also have the planning and engagement photos. I mean, if you're truly in it to win it. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, the previous not.com article talks about the fact couples often immediately start the planning process. Quote, after the proposal, couples are letting the adrenaline of getting engaged propel them into wedding planning. Over half, 57% of all couples reported that they begin planning their nuptials less than 1 month after the proposal, while 23% began planning 1 to 2 months later. In total, that means 80% of fiancés are beginning to plan their wedding within 2 months of their engagement. I feel like that's reasonable.
I think that's reasonable. I wonder, because I've had friends have done the long engagement, the like 2 years.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. But
They even made a
makes
movie
sense.
about it. Actually, probably not the same premise, but still, the long engagement. We know.
Yes.
And also not a sponsor. I've never seen it, obviously.
I think that's...
It's a war movie, isn't it?
It's a war movie.
It's a war movie. And that I know. I just know the term. Hey, it exists. End of story.
Okay. Different thing.
Just saying. Still a long engagement. Anyway.
That's true.
But then comes the engagement photos. Of course, again, not all couples do this, but it has become more popular. According to simplyelope.com, just like any other photo sessions, the cost varies. There are costs based on hours, packages, and experiences. So they write, the average price for engagement photos ranges from about $300 to $1,000. For a 2-hour session, you might be looking at $500 to $1,500. And so this was as of October 2024. And we're going to talk a little bit about like photography budgets, but they make some money. If you're good at it and if you can get hired, which is, because it is a pretty inundated industry is what I've discovered.
Yeah, because I think if you're trying to be a photographer, it's like, I mean, it's still a scale, but I feel like, wedding photography is one you can do even if it's not the thing you want to do.
Right.
To help you make money until you can do...
It makes the money when you're trying to do your art.
Yeah.
Or real estate. I feel like real estate and that are the two big ones. They're like, this is what I'll do for now to make the money, but this is what I want to do. But you know what? It takes artistry to get a
I do not want to
wedding
take it away
photo. Yes. And one of the big trends I've seen on TikTok is ripping wedding photographers. So if you're not good, people are going to know about it, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. I see.
Of course, this is just an estimate, and there are ways to cut down, like having a good friend with a good phone doing some heavy-duty editing and hiding in the corner or pretending like they're doing some surprise thing. You can do that for your engagement photos, too.
I definitely had a friend who did that for some of our friends.
If you're good at it, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you were stuck in trying to plan the wedding, the new trend may be AI. Again, from the experts from The Knot, writer Esther Lee says this, quote, a declaration of the most leveraged 2025 wedding planning trend, the adoption of AI to help engaged couples with the planning experience. If you don't believe us, though, we came with the receipts. According to the Knot Worldwide 2025 Wedding Trends to Watch report, the rise of artificial intelligence for engaged couples has increased with 20% of couples now utilizing AI-driven wedding planning tools to help with communication, etiquette, and inspiration. The number of AI users has doubled year over year from 1 in 10 to 1 in 5, with both vendors and couples using it to their benefit. In fact, we'll let you in on a secret. Even the Knot-style quiz is powered by AI to help couples refine their wedding themes.
Yeah, so we wanted to leave that last comment in because I thought it was funny, but I don't think we understand how much AI is being used in general to generate things like quizzes that people actually do use or try to generate colors or schemes or any of that. A lot of it is AI, even though we think it's just Photoshop.
Yeah.
So Zola.com agrees and says, quote, 7% of couples admit to already using at least one AI tool, while 11% are planning to incorporate it into wedding planning. 36% are considering it, but not sure yet. And in total, this equates to 54% who said yes or maybe versus 46% who are unlikely to use AI. So that's a good chunk of people who are like, eh. And this is kind of that whole level of using digital media. And I think we do talk a little bit about that in order to plan it instead of having an actual coordinator.
Yeah.
Which they still exist, y'all. They're out there. Please give them business if you can.
Yeah.
So we have talked about the engagement phase, and we are deciding how to go forward, right? We are at the wedding planning phase and paying phase.
No.
So what does this look like? Are you ready, Anney? Let's go do some cake tasting, right? First, let's look at the trends and see what these cool couples are doing now. Because, my way's not cutting it. According to sapphireeventgroup.com, there are a few returns in traditions, such as an elaborate wedding cake. Us millennials, we're loving on some cupcakes and even donuts. Like, I love that. Give me my donut. Pie, give it to me. Let me have it. Let me have a bite. Cookies. I have so many cookies. But it seems the typical multi-tiered cake is back with elaborate decorations, of course. I hope we're keeping the added figures like the dog, that little dog figurine that nibbles at the cake. I'm not going to lie. I think that's cute. I like it. I know you don't love dogs, but I like it, Anney. Okay.
We'll work this out.
And with that, the traditional fancy veil is back in fashion. They want that long, very detailed, eloquent veil back, apparently. Really good for pictures. Really good for pictures.
Okay.
And I guess the giant feathers and birds that we had witnessed in Sex and the City movie, they're gone now. It's done.
That's, I can understand that. But they did talk about some new additions, including hiring wedding content creators along with the photographers and videographers. Here's what they write. Quote, couples are hiring professional content creators to record footage via their cell phones to have plenty of content to create their own media with. These creators capture the raw footage and small moments that are beautiful to watch back after you're married. While professional photos and videos, naturally, take a good deal of time to be ready, this type of content can be delivered in 24 to 48 hours for a newlywed couple to enjoy, post, and announce their marriage.
Oh, I'm going to tell you what. This trend has a lot of haters. And there's people who are like, why? Why? Because for the most part, I know one of the bigger trends at actual weddings is to put up your phones, or even some people like have baskets to collect phones. Like I've seen it go that intense.
Yeah.
Because people were so tired of other people trying to like film the wedding instead of not being present, or blocking views, or blocking the actual professional views. That's been a conversation where the person, like, all you can see is the back of the head of a person in their camera and can't see the, but here we have actual people hired to use their phone to do some reels and such. And for more context, storyofyourday.com defines a wedding content creator like this. A social media wedding content creator specializes in creating content for social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube, and more. Their focus is on capturing, curating, visually appealing, and engaging content that is tailored for online consumption and sharing. They often utilize creative editing techniques and trendy music to produce content that is optimized for social media algorithms and appears to a wider audience. So I'm not going to call her a hater. I'm not, because this person from the site is a specific professional wedding videographer. And again, doesn't really endorse content creating. I think she's just in her blog talking about why it's not the same thing and the differences between. So her definition for them are very like specific and like unbiased. But her conversations about them is about like why they're not necessary versus what she does. I think they're trying to differentiate, once again, what they do, again, as compared to content creations, because some people may just opt out of the videographer altogether to go for the content creator, because you never know. I know a lot of the times a videographer and photographer could be from one company, which makes a lot of sense. But this person, too, is a world renowned from what I gather, and she's based in the UK. Not a fan. And I get it. It's an interesting conversation, because also there's a lot of other trends that go with that could be for content. You don't have to hire specifically.
Yeah, that's weddings just sound like so much work to me.
Not even halfway through this episode, Anney.
I'm already tired, Samantha.
She's already done with me.
Also, more weddings are using interactive guest books. Here's another quote from that article. You may have already seen or heard about audio guest books. They come with an adorable phone, usually with a vintage style, and your guest can leave a voicemail that's recorded to you to listen to after your wedding. A new recorded guest book trend has arrived in the form of QR codes. These codes can be shared with guests at your wedding and even friends and loved ones who are unable to attend for them to leave you a photo and a message. Signed Jenga pieces, custom cornhole games, and puzzle pieces are just a few other interactive guest book ideas we've seen. We predict creative guest books will definitely be on the list of 2025 wedding trends.
I know, like, for a while, like, videography, like video messages to brides and grooms were a thing as well, like little backdrops, and you can say congratulations. I mean, that's the same thing as a videographer going around taking like videos of the guests. Have you tried any of the new trends? Like, have you been to a wedding that has any of the new trends?
I don't think so. I mean, the closest I've gotten to this, I would say, is not a new trend, but it's when they leave like the disposable cameras on the table and you just go around and take pictures and then they collect them at the end. Money. That's probably the closest I got. I did somebody who did like an actual digital guest book where you could sign in and write a message, but nothing like this.
I've done the phone. That I've gone to a wedding with a phone message. I thought that was cute, but at the same time, it was so loud in the background. I don't know if they heard anything.
Like, we don't know what she said.
I'm not sure. So, but with all of this, it doesn't just have to be a single day or even a day or two. According to Esther Lee from the previous Not.com article, it's about the whole experience. Here's a quote. Activities are a post-pandemic trend that has only grown with more involvement over the years. People want to hang with friends and loved ones for the weekend, says Allison Hotchkiss of Allison Events. So we've seen more activities like pickleball tournaments, mini races like 3Ks over 5K runs. That sounds awful. Scavenger hunts, golf tournaments, board games, and more. Our team has seen beach and pool parties, farewell sales, and much, much more. So like they are talking about a whole event. Like they do these big giant games or events and tournaments. If you make me run, I'm not coming to your wedding. Just want you to know this.
It's not even that. You're just not coming to the wedding.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
You might not even get a present. We might not be friends anymore at this point. Like, what is wrong with you? So their article continues to explain that the experience may even include a friendly wager. Now, I will say I think I've had bingo, but anyway, here we go. So lately, couples are even opting to integrate games into their nuptials, a wedding reception trends to watch. Examples include light-hearted wagers over whether the bride will have an outfit change or if the band will play Ed Sheeran. Weddings are evolving into more interactive, personalized celebrations, says Greg Stahl, founder of the app Betting on the Wedding. Couples want to give their guests an experience and have them feel involved beyond just attending. I feel like if you have to bet on a wedding, you might have a problem.
Yeah, I think if you, like you said, like I could see a bingo thing being fun, like funny. Yeah. But if it's like you're actually betting, I don't know.
What bad song are they going to play? Yeah. No, here we go. You know, like I feel like that's more of like an inside joke that you're making fun of a couple. That's just not nice.
Yeah.
Let me have my Ed Sheeran if I want it.
That's true. There's a fine line there. I can see it working, but it's got a delicate dance.
Like, who is this? Are you like a frenemy? Or are you like,
right.
What's happening? Or do you have a gambling addiction? Should I be concerned?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I will say I did not look into betting on the wedding, so I know nothing about them. So it may be completely fine. I'm just being silly, but that's an interesting concept. I will give them that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say the last wedding I went to, which happens to be super producer Dylan.
Oh, yeah.
He did a really cool thing where there was like a couple of events over the weekend and they were all optional. So it was like karaoke one night and like bowling one night. And so that was really fun where you could kind of pick and choose, go to the wedding and then let's do karaoke. And then the next day I'll do bowling. But I didn't go to the brunch because it was early. No. Been out at
After all that,
karaoke last night.
I can't do that. I can't do all that. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the new trends we mentioned earlier was having a content creator on hand to be able to post your magical day. And social media has definitely impacted wedding days. From the fact people are more likely to get inspiration through social media, such as Pinterest or Instagram, they can also connect easier to venues and vendors as well. So here's a quote from Destify.com. Enterprise apps today shows that 64% of people take wedding ideas from Pinterest. Furthermore, GetNux reveals that 76% of U.S. couples resort to online resources for wedding planning. In this digital age, these aren't just supplementary statistics, but indicators of a monumental shift in the wedding market, transitioning from traditional planning methods to online platforms. But it's also about showing off the wedding as well. Usage of things like hashtags or QR codes has allowed for people outside of your invited guests to appreciate all your efforts. Here's another quote from the Destify.com. You create an online community centered around your big day and enhance the overall experience for you and your guests. And there's the magic through the lens of hashtags, community feedback, and real-time inspiration. Social media for weddings become more than just a planning tool. It becomes a platform for expression and connection. But as that quote hints, the usage of a hashtag can be a great tool in the planning process. Again, from Destify.com, a hashtag is a simple, powerful tool in the world of weddings. Crafting a perfect wedding hashtag has become as integral to the planning process as picking a venue or a wedding dress. And honestly, the more creative the hashtag, the more points you get, right? Right?
I guess.
Have you thought of one? Do we have one? If we had a wedding, what would our hashtag be?
I don't know.
Oh, we're going to have to think about this.
We're going to have to think about it. I did have a friend.
Someone needs to workshop this with us.
Yes, please. I will think about it. I had a friend who did one based on their cat. I can't remember what it was, but they handed out gifts, koozies that had their cat on them, and there was a hashtag. Yeah. You know, the unfortunate thing about this, another couple I know, and I'm definitely not going to say who they are, I posted, beautiful picture of them getting married, and I was like, oh, wow. True love, and they got divorced not too long after. So sometimes the social media thing
it doesn't always help. Well, that's the thing, is you can have a great hashtag. I been to weddings where the wedding is photographically beautiful, but there's a lot behind the scenes, If you had a good last name, like a punny last name, which actually my partner does, so I couldn't imagine. We're not planning anything at all. This is not a
right.
a wish list for me or anything.
Experiment.
But he has a pretty good last name. I think it'd be something funny. I do not have a great last name, not pun worthy.
Yeah,
you have a good last name too. It's pun worthy.
It is.
It has that candy would be everywhere.
That's true.
One thing we don't talk about in this is having a lot of people trying to get brands to sponsor their wedding.
Oh, whoa.
By sending out sending out invitations to them to get gifts. Have you seen this? This is a huge trend where they send out invitations to corporations they love or businesses they love. So if you love Dr. Pepper, like Anney does,
don't you dare.
Sending that to them to see if they'll send you back. And sometimes they will. Sometimes you might get a spoon or a towel or a congratulations.
Wow.
If you make it viral, if you have a viral video, sometimes they will sponsor your wedding or at least give you something, maybe some type of alcohol. For you, course. Who knows?
So I'd be walking down the aisle in a Reese's dress.
Yes. Or you'll be walking down, or your reception is all just course. Nothing, no champagne, no wines, just course. No water, no nothing. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's a huge trend that we haven't talked about, but we won't be talking about. But that has happened a lot recently. It's a hit and miss. If you can get some free stuff, though, I don't blame you.
Yeah. All right. All right. Not necessarily a trend, but because of social media, it has helped people find venues a lot easier. From tripleseat.com, quote, if your event venue hosts weddings, it's likely that you have a Facebook page. And if not, we recommend you create one. This allows couples to easily search for venue options that fit their needs and read reviews from past clients. On a venue's page, potential clients can see pictures from past weddings you've hosted, which helps illustrate different ways that your space can be transformed. Facebook has also made venues more accessible through its Messenger feature. This allows interested parties to instantly message the venue's Facebook admin with any questions they have about your location.
So this article was written in 2020. So a little bit dated, in the middle of the pandemic, and is probably, again, outdated. Using Facebook as a reference point makes it feel fairly dated. Like if that's your one central, we obviously haven't, 5 years makes a big difference, especially the last 5 years. From a recent survey completed by Zola.com, the Gen Zers, they love some TikTok. Love some TikTok. So 92% of Gen Zers said that social media is an essential part of their planning process, the highest percentage of any generation, which is not surprising. Pinterest remains the number one source of wedding inspo overall, but the second slot is caught in a generational battle between Gen Zers who are all about wedding TikTok or who are all about hashtag wedding talk, and millennials who turn to Instagram for their daily dose of wedding planning. So I think that's interesting because also a lot of the Instagram reels, we know are TikToks.
Right.
So kind of one and the same. Okay, so just to throw out some random facts in the middle of this, here are some facts from StevieRayEntertainment.com, and this was from 2022. Every year, an average of 2.4 million weddings are performed in the U.S. and about 150,000 per year in Canada. That makes me laugh because why is Canada? Is it just less population? Maybe that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. We'll have to go back and look at that. Today's median age for the first-time brides is 28 years old. For grooms, it's 30. Second marriage median age is 32, and groom is 35. That is so strong. What?
Yeah.
Also, I bypassed both. So have you. We've bypassed both of these years. We're running late.
Our marriage it'll do well.
It will last now. So 67% of women continue to wear the same fragrance they wore on their wedding day. I thought that was a random fact. Okay. The number one wedding city in the U.S. and number two in the world, can you guess? Las Vegas, with an average of 120,000 weddings per year. The number one in the world is Istanbul, with 166,000, which is kind of surprising. I would have never thought of Istanbul for a wedding, but maybe because Las Vegas is right here.
Yeah.
The surprising one to me, and it makes sense being in the state of Georgia, and I think at least two of my siblings have married here, by the way. The number two wedding city in the U.S. is Gatlinburg, Tennessee, with 42,000 weddings, which, by the way, again, huge difference in numbers, but Vegas is the spot. Vegas is that spot.
Could get married in a drive-thru in Vegas.
By Elvis. The number three wedding city in the U.S. is New Orleans, with an average of 36,000 marriages a year. Again, this is all in 2022, so I am interested in the new numbers, but I'm like, Gatlinburg. Most people don't even know where that is, which makes me laugh.
My friend group used to go, that was our Valentine's Day place. We would go for a cabin weekend. I don't know.
A lot of people do. They got chapels up there. Yeah. I think you could also get married by an Elvis.
Maybe.
If you want to.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure you can. So let's talk about costs. How much is all of this going to cost? Going back to our experts at thenod.com, Kim Forrest writes, the national average cost of a wedding in 2023 was $35,000, which is a $5,000 increase from 2022's average wedding cost of $30,000. You might be wondering what led to this increase. Notably, nationwide inflation in 2022 led to an increase in the cost of many goods and services in the wedding industry, which affected an overall increase in total wedding expenses.
And they break down the numbers a bit more. Quote, on average, our data shows that couples hire 14 vendors in total. Notably, couples are increasingly investing in wedding planners. 37% hired a wedding planner in 2023, up from 30% in 2019. A wedding planner can help couples prioritize their wedding funds efficiently to maximize overall spending.
Right. They usually have connections too, so you never know.
Yeah.
But again, 2019 was pre-pandemic, and those numbers are, like I said, we didn't talk about that, but we don't talk about that in this one, but it dipped pretty far. So those increases, it would be interesting to know what from immediately after too, but
I did go to a wedding in 2020, October 2020, and it was really, it was just tense because we were all wearing masks, and the photographer was like, gosh. It's the first time I took a COVID test. Because after that, I was like, I definitely have to go.
Yeah.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
So for more detail from visualcapitalist.com, writer Bruno Venditti posts, which was originally for their app Veroni, a breakdown of wedding costs nationwide. So the most expensive states in the U.S. are New Jersey at $55,000 for weddings, New York, $49,000, and Connecticut at $44,000. And the cheapest are Kentucky, Idaho, and Montana at $20,000, and Utah at $17,000. Georgia was sitting at $30,000 with Ohio, Oregon, and Washington, which I found interesting. That's such a stretch on the map. And because I was interested, once again, Las Vegas, is the number one. Nevada sits at $17,336, which is it's cheaper than Georgia. So you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
Let's go to Vegas. I'll spend an extra $200 on the ticket. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get married at Vegas. Annie, don't take me to Vegas.
Aw.
Don't do it.
Okay.
I don't want to. So how does the U.S. rank when it comes to internationally? We're expensive. The most expensive, actually. We win. Yay! I can't imagine what's going to happen in the next 4 years. From Statista.com, as of 2023, the average cost of a wedding in the U.S. is at $35,000, followed by the U.K. at $28,500, and France sits at $21,800, and Colombia is the cheapest at $5,250 that they listed.
Yeah.
So I should put that there. I honestly thought France would be more expensive.
Yeah.
Just with all of the islands and then Paris, the city of love.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's Chicago. Is that Chicago? No, Philly.
The city
brotherly
of
love is Philly. You know how they have those little sayings? Philly is the brotherly love, right? Or is that Chicago?
I think it's, it doesn't.
Y'all tell me, because I'm all over the spot, obviously. Interestingly, another site, SN Travels, uses packages as a way to research about the costs and efficiency. That they found that France was more expensive than the UK, but doesn't have the US at all as a part of this conversation. I guess people outside of the US wouldn't pick the US as a destination wedding spot. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. If you're in Europe, you're like, I'm not gonna go to Vegas. I think I'd rather go to Istanbul, obviously. Right. But if we as the U.S. U.S. citizens, I guess, wanted to go international for a destination wedding, right? What would that look like?
Oh my. Well, going back to the Knot.com, Diane Hall writes, quote, according to the Knot 2023 Real Wedding Study, traveling to a destination to get married continues to be a popular option, with 19% of couples married under what they consider a destination wedding, i.e. a location other than where they currently live and or grew up. So, how much does a destination wedding cost?
Right. So with that, they answer their own question saying, the average destination wedding cost in 2023 is $41,000, according to the Not Real Wedding Study, an increase of 15% over 2022, which was $35,600. As these numbers are averages, they say use them for baseline knowledge as you begin planning your own destination wedding. It's important to note that destination weddings aren't only beach weddings in a faraway tropical locations. In fact, most destination weddings take place in the continental U.S. Yes, these may be beach locations, but they can also be in the mountains, at a national park, near a lake, or in your favorite vacation spot. A smaller number of weddings were held in international destinations. According to our study, 44% of international destination weddings took place in Mexico, while 20% were held in Europe and 18% in the Caribbean. here's how the destination wedding costs compared to a hometown wedding. So with that, they break that down. Cost for domestic destination weddings is again $43,300. Average cost for international destination wedding is $42,000, which is less. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Average cost for the hometown wedding is $33,300. Overall average for a wedding is $35,000. So it's a little cheaper to do international destination versus the domestic destination. I wonder if that's like guest list goes down and such.
Yeah. Or in certain places, it could be like an exchange
Right.
But not a lot of places.
If the UK is that much cheaper, maybe it does take away $1,000 of the expense. But you would think the travel, the visas.
Right. Yeah.
But then if you're going on a honeymoon over there, it's less.
Yeah.
There's so many thoughts.
That's true. Yeah.
I did want to also talk about some of the 20 best or popular destinations that people do go for. And this is from Travel and Leisure. So some of the international spots would be Italy, Dominican Republic, Ireland, which, you know what, I get that. France, and Mexico, as I said, Thailand is up there. For some of the local domestic, New Orleans is up there, Colorado, I could see that, California, Hawaii, of course, and Newport, Rhode Island.
I bet it's lovely.
I've never been to Rhode Island, but Rhode Island is expensive, is what I found out. Just so you know.
Yep.
And so with all of that, what exactly is the breakdown of costs? And this will, we're going to put in all the numbers, including destination wedding stuff. So from the knot.com, this is the list. And I'm just coming straight from their statistics and list. Reception venue costs around $14,400. Live band can cost $4,700. Destination wedding photography costs $3,100. Destination wedding planner is $2,700. Alcohol, $3,200. Florist, $3,200. Rehearsal dinner, $3,900. Videographer, $2,500. Event rentals, $2,500. Lighting and decor, $1,900. If you decide to do a DJ, $1,900. Guest entertainment, I don't know what that means, $1,300. Ceremony ensemble, $1,000. Paper items, $580. Wedding cake cost, $580. This is just as much as the paper items. Catering cost per person is $102. Local transportation / limo, $1,200. Favors, $500. Officiants, $250. They're getting ripped off here. Wedding dress cost around $2,400. Additional jewelry, $475. Hairstylist, price for one to be wed, $164. Makeup artist for one to be wed, $152. That's a chunk of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a chunk of money. So the wedding industry is a money maker. It's not a surprise. Again, who is making this money? I will tell you, it was hard for me to get some numbers. Like I got it for like individuals per year, per thing. So we have different breakdowns. From Zippia.com, as of 2023, the U.S. revenue for wedding service industry is at $70.3 billion. And according to globenewswire.com, by 2032, it will be worth $646.65 billion. My God.
Wow.
My God.
Okay.
Almost 10 times.
Yeah, that's...
Billion. Huh. Okay. We need to do something with it. Like, how does SMNTY marries you? We'll do this for you. Give us money. How much does the photography industry make during a year? According to FortuneBusinessInsights.com, it is also in the billions. The global wedding photography market size was valued at $23.36 billion US dollars, and that was in 2024. The market is projected to grow from $25.05 billion in 2025 to $43.6 billion by 2032, and again, US dollars. I mean, if the value of the US dollar goes down, that's a whole different conversation. But you get the gist.
A lot. And if you own an ideal spot for a venue, according to weddingvenuemavericks.com, it is worth $30 billion USD. Some more statistics from that site. Wedding venues generate an average of $50,000 of revenue in a year. The average profit margin for wedding venues is 20%. The average wedding venue cost $10,000 to rent.
So my old landlord has a very nice property, like real nice. Like it's like apparently an old funeral home, but like mansion style almost. Like it's I've been inside of it. He's hosted many events there. Now uses it as a wedding venue and hosts probably about 30 weddings a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can only imagine.
Yep.
How much money he's making. I think there's like a little like tool shed, like type of offshoot guest house that only has like a small bedroom, a small kitchen, everything, but it's very small, 1-bedroom type of thing. He lives there while he rents out the giant house.
It's haunted wedding.
Haunted wedding. You know what? A lot of people love those things.
That's true.
So what about the flowers? Again, this wasn't an easy answer to find, but here are some numbers given by trueclientpro.com about yearly earnings. And I think it's trying to tell people how to be a part of this industry. Freelance wedding florists make $30,000 to $45,000 annually. Floral studio owners make $50,000 to $80,000 annually. Wedding florist salary is $80,000 to $250,000. And then luxury wedding florist over $100,000 annually with high-end events. So you can make some money. And there's so many how-to sites. If you want to learn how to and how to use, and like they talk about marking it up 6 times the actual cost, like in order to get that rev share. So I'm like, okay, you do you. According to get those revenue, I'm like, okay, you do you. So then it goes down to who pays for all of this?
Good question. According to brides.com, this is how they break it down. The bride's family pays for, quote, the expenses associated with the wedding. This includes expected cost, like the bride's dress, smaller big day details, such as the invitations and cake, and big ticket items, including the photographer and venue. The list looks like this, according to brides.com. Traditional bride family coverage includes engagement party and pre-wedding parties, get-togethers, venues, coordinators, video and photography, flowers and decor, dress with all of the stuff, invitations, transportation, and accommodation for bridesmaids, the cake, and the after brunch. The bride has her own expenses, including the groom's wedding band, gifts for the wedding parties, and hair and makeup for her peoples. This is interesting to me because I definitely had to pay for all that stuff as a bridesmaid, but whatever.
Me too. So
I don't mind.
Right. For the groom's family, they write, the groom's parents are still tasked with paying for a portion of the event. So there could be a conversation that they partially pay for the venue as well. According to traditional etiquette, the main financial role of the groom's family entails funding the rehearsal dinner, including the venue, food, drink, decorations, entertainment, and invitations. They're also traditionally tasked with planning and paying for the honeymoon. The fee of the officiant services and the marriage licenses also falls in the parents of the groom's laps. In their list, they have the following: rehearsal dinner, officiant fee, license, specific bouquet and boutonnieres and corsages, transportation, accommodations for groomsmen, DJ and band, alcohol, and honeymoon. The groom is responsible for the bride's rings, including the engagement one, groom's attire, gifts for the bride and his groom's people, honeymoon if the family doesn't pay for it. So that's supposed to be going on him. Of course, the party, such as the bridesmaids and groomsmen, all have expenses as well. For the bridesmaids, there are some gray areas, kind of like what you're talking about in these expenses, which has a lot to do with what is expected of them. For the most part, things like bachelor and bachelorette parties and trips, the bridesmaids and groomsmen would put their money in. But if it becomes extravagant, like we're taking trips to Europe or something, there's a lot of argument on who is expected to pay. Like, is the bride going to give some of that money? Is the groom going to give some of that money for the bride? Or the families adding that money? If the maid of honor is her sister or someone from the family, do they pay for it? Like, so all of these things. If you're putting yourself as the host, then yeah, the expense is expected to come from you. So whoever is planning this better be ready to either cough it up themselves or have a pre-discussion about who is paying for what so that they can know whether or not they can afford it. Dresses and tuxes, also a toss-up, but typically it's seen to be a responsibility of the bridesmaids and the groomsmen. I have paid for every single one of my bridesmaids' dress.
Me too.
I prayed for a J. Crew dress in college. That was a lot. I wore that thing forever too. Like, it was a nice dress, so I would get it hemmed. I would make it shorter. I would make it like, this is my evening wear for everything. I'm going to go to bed in it. With all of our articles we have researched, a chunk of them are advice on how to talk to the bride or groom about the cost and whether or not being able to actually afford to be a part of the wedding party. Like, being able to say no, because I'm like, I can't afford that $2,500 dress that you want me to buy from that other expensive Gucci store. I can't do that. Do they have dresses? Do Gucci do dresses? I don't know. This is how well I know. I know that I can't afford that because I don't know where it came from. Shoes, talk about that. Hair. I mean, there's even demands where all of the bridesmaids have to have same color of hair or different color of hair. Like, there's been conversations. Most of the weddings I've been, all of the weddings I've been, they have been reasonable.
Yeah.
And not expected that. And I have all like understood, okay, pricing is a conversation. I did have one where I was just beginning social work and she was like, I got your dress. Please be in the wedding. Like, knowing that that could be like a deal breaker for me. So a lot of that was happening. I was also really young when a chunk of people got married. So it was interesting trying to navigate that.
I hope listeners write in about this because so much of this, I'm like, really? We're still doing this? Because I feel like my friends got married later. So, like, their wedding gift, in one example, was you donated to their honeymoon.
Right.
Like, because they didn't need all the new, they'd been living together for years. They didn't
Please
need,
don't buy me new things. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just curious, listeners, if you write in, if this, I believe the statistics. I'm just, it's not been my experience. So it's really interesting.
I really expected to see some of the trends being of older people. And we do talk a little bit about that later on, because what we're talking about here is very traditional, as we were talking. Because again, most of my friends, especially in the last 4 years, 5 years, if you are 36 and older, even 35 and older, I guess, maybe even 30, the typical ideas have kind of gone out the window because they've already lived together. So they have a lot of stuff, or they've been married previously. They don't want to do all this stuff. Like, all of these things come into factors. I did have several weddings that I was a part of in college. When I was living with 3 other people, paying $250 a month in rent, and having a part-time job because that was a stretch for me, having to throw lingerie showers. So we would do, I remember the one, I was very proud of this one. I did a whole scavenger hunt throughout downtown Athens. It was kind of cruel, but thinking the person I was throwing it for is not super shy. So she was fine. But like, I would have her sing to a barista to get a present. Like, I hid her presents all over downtown Athens. And thank you to the people who actually like messed with us with this. And then at the end, we would all come together, went on North Campus to a really pretty area, had a whole picnic, and had a light lunch or a light like snack while she was opening presents. We did a crossword puzzle for her that you could generate. Not an AI. It probably wasn't AI technically at that point, but we didn't know it was AI.
Yeah.
Based on her marriage or based on her wedding, like all of these things. So we did a whole thing, but I did this as a poor college student.
Right.
So I didn't have to do too much, but like, we got creative.
Yeah.
We got creative. But I'm thinking back on it now, I'm like, man.
A lot of work.
The amount of money that we had to get for the lingerie gift, the wedding gift, the bridesmaid dress, all the things, it was a lot. She didn't ask us to be the bridesmaid. I will say that. So we were grateful for that. But we threw all the parties because the bridesmaids were his younger sister or her younger sister who could do even less.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, and talking again about the actual, back to this whole thing about breakdowns of who pays for what from our friends from not.com, Sarah Hanlon writes, because people are getting married later in life, couples are more financially equipped to take on more or all of the wedding costs themselves. Plus, given the importance now placed on the overall experience, more couples are willing to splurge on upgrades and extras they want to make their dream wedding a reality. Of course, that's not to say to-be weds don't receive any financial help from family members. Our study found that on average, couples cover 50% of the wedding budget and parents' family contribute the other 50%. Interestingly, respondents further indicate my parents' family paid 37% and my partner's parents' family paid 13%. That is really specific numbers.
Yeah. pretty different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Zola.com adds, with the increase of using digital things like save the dates and even registries or invitations, couples have been adding cash funds as an option for their gifts. They write 87% of couples are adding personalized cash funds to their Zola registries, using this money to not only help cover some wedding costs, but also post-wedding financial priorities such as the first purchase of a home. The number of couples adding cash funds is up 6% from 2023, which at the time we believe to be an all-time high.
Of course, all of this is also to say traditions are not something adhered to by a lot of people, and different people have different traditions. As they mentioned earlier, because many couples are getting married later in life, they often cover their own expenses. And they do mention the comparison with the queer community. Again, from Zola.com, quote, "It's also important to call out that even as we work alongside members of our industry every day to celebrate and support all love, we know the journey is not equitable for many couples, including members of the LGBTQ plus community. In our own data, there is a noticeable divide in comparing who contributes financially to sexual orientation. It's true that the vast majority of all couples contribute financially, but it's also true that a larger percentage of LGBTQ plus couples, in comparison to heterosexual couples, are responsible for covering wedding cost. 38% of LGBTQ plus couples are paying in full for their weddings in comparison to 27% of heterosexual couples. 13% of heterosexual couples have their wedding costs completely covered by loved ones, while the same is only true for 6% of LGBTQ plus couples.
Right.
Yeah.
And we already know a lot is a part of that conversation. Like I said, we did not do a lot of research for this specific episode, but we do want to talk about what this looks like.
Yeah.
Like, it feels trivial to talk about wedding costs if we're talking about the fact that the right of marriage and of existence is being threatened. So it's kind of hard, to really look deep into that. But that is something that has to be remembered. And I'm glad Zola was very quick to have that. I think they're the first ones, not to call out or say that the Knot hasn't mentioned it, but like just when we were researching it, this is the first time I came across it. I was like, oh my God, there's that information that they made sure to include in the regular posting. So they wanted to acknowledge it. So I thought that was pretty significant. And from that same article, Emily Forrest, who is the writer, writes, and the overall balance of wedding planning responsibility is very unbalanced. In fact, for millennial couples, the stereotypical assumptions that one person will take on the majority of wedding planning responsibilities is the number one societal expectation they want to change. In contrast to the financial data above, LGBTQ plus couples generally have a more positive experience sharing wedding planning responsibilities equally. But between women and men who are marrying each other, there's a clear discrepancy about time spent. Only 1% of women feel their male partner spends more time wedding planning, but 35% of men said their female partner spends more time wedding planning. 7% of women feel their male partner spends quality time wedding planning, but 36% of men said they spend quality time planning. 8% of women said their partner helps them literally zero. But 0% of men with female partners responded this way. The delusion is real.
Literally zero.
She said literally zero. Like, she had to put that in quotes. Of course, I wanted to go back and look at the attitudes. Like I said, we were talking more about like the cost breakdowns and who is financially responsible and what it looks like today, more so than that. Again, this could be a whole series. We're not doing it. I did it, Anney. I didn't do it in 2 episodes. I want that to be noted and said. I did it in my 1. However, when I was looking through all of that, nothing seems to have changed, or no one's writing about it, because the majority of the articles, when I thought, I just want to see if it has changed, if there's an increase in men being actively a part of the planning since, I don't know, 2000, 2015, anything, nothing. The latest article I saw was in 2016, and it say there's more men who are being involved. The rest of them are pretty much like scoldings, telling men to get it together from the articles that I've read. So it's interesting. I don't know if that's just because I didn't dig deep enough. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of get a preview
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. I will say in that same article, they go on to say that for the most part, the couples feel like their partners are at least very supportive throughout the process. Are they actively helping? No. But at least they're going to be like, okay, that's cool. I like it.
Guess that's something.
I guess that's something. So that's what we have for this one. Like I said, there's so much more we should and could go into. But we just kind of wanted to see how it's changed lately. Like, man, if you're a part of that industry and if you can get your feet wet, whether you're a photographer, a florist, a coordinator, which, by the way, I've coordinated several weddings. Actually.
Oh,
that was my
okay.
gift to my friend, to be mean to people.
Well,
and to be organized.
Look at that.
Surprisingly.
Okay. Yeah, if you're in that industry, let us know. People, listeners, if you've gotten married recently and you want to share if this is resonating with you or not resonating with you, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. You can email us at hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.